Here we are. We made it.
We made it. We survived. We
Yeah.
arrived. Arriving and surviving are not always the same thing.
Well, that's true. But as long as you're physically there, who can fault you, I believe.
Yes. Or at least as long as most of you is physically there.
Yeah. The Restream has a few new GUI changes. So now where it shows that 3 people are watching, I can put my mouse over it and it says that those 3 people are on YouTube. Oh, okay. And 0 are on Twitch.
Fuck Twitch.
Yeah, that's right. Twitch is actually the better one, too, of the platforms.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Or live streaming, but...
yeah. It's hard to be worse than YouTube in general, though.
Yeah. We have hello from Ain't Like You B4B.
All right.
Who says hooray. Hello, person, stranger, new friend?
Yeah, could be a new friend of the show. Could be a new enemy as well. We shouldn't rule out. We haven't backed on too many companies. So.
No.
And the only company we really backed on it was Irregular, and they retired, and then we did a nice episode. So I feel like we're okay there. Like,
yeah.
We can fight like one old guy.
Listen, if you retire, we'll talk good about you. That's what we're trying to say.
Yeah, that's all you have to do. Like, you're doing some shit, just retire. We'll, it's like somebody was in the family that nobody likes, but then they die, and everyone has like remember like one nice thing they did.
Yeah.
When the one time 17 years ago they took you to baseball practice.
It's like Michael Jackson when he passed away. He was a villain, and then he was a hero. So there we go.
Yeah,
that's all you need.
I don't want to like get a bunch of people riled up, but I never actually found out like what was true or not true with all of that stuff. At some point, I was like, "This is a long time ago, and I never need to think about Michael Jackson again." So I guess I don't know. Like, and I don't want to like go do the research. There's still people who are like intense about it. Like sometimes you run into like random stuff on Reddit, and somebody will write like an entire book about like how Michael Jackson was definitely framed or was definitely guilty.
No, I think it had something to do with Joan Benet.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, who knows?
I don't know if you ever saw that in like the tabloids. They always had Joan Benet mysteries, and even like 10 years later, 20 years later, like a Joan Benet thing will still pop up.
It's always there.
So we got our good friend Scald is Ain't Like You B4B.
Yeah.
Tell us about your handle there, Scald. What's going on? What ain't like you? What is B4B? I want to know. And hello to Mini Pots. How are you doing?
I am only seeing one person in the chat.
Oh, there's a mystery.
Yeah, that's peculiar. I didn't know there was more than one option.
Oh, are you on Top Chat or Live Chat? Is the question.
Oh, I am on. I did not know that was a. Oh, here we go.
So now Top Chat hates people, and Live Chat lets everyone be friends. We don't know why.
On, like the discrimination chat. Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's terrible. All right, we're inclusive. We like to have everyone chatting.
Yep. Yeah, Uncle Adam's live streams, he's always complaining because he always has to turn it from Top Chat to Live Chat because he realized he's been missing conversation, and it's always like that every single time you start the live stream. You have to change it from Top Chat to Live Chat.
All right, so just don't go with the top one.
Yeah. But Restream, the Restream chat. That's good. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I guess we have kind of a topical topic this time, actually set off by a YouTube video.
Yeah, that's right. From our good friends at Bedroom Battlefields.
Yeah. So why don't you like sort of briefly recap kind of what they were talking about, and then we sort of work through it.
Yeah, my brain is like a sieve. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this. So only the big chunks get caught, and the big chunks are this. They're having a discussion on wargaming and how points, in their opinion, kind of ruin it. It was not Matthew, it was 2 other guests, and they were just having a dialogue back and forth. Because folks who say started in historical wargaming, you come about with a scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're reenacting this battle. Yeah. Points would just get in the way. Like,
right.
So you just like, you have these troops, you have these troops, these are the situations. Bam, we fight. And we'll see if things go differently for some reason this time.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel that the point system kind of ruined things because everyone's just kind of like min-maxing. They kind of like getting rid of the stories. The scenarios don't necessarily matter as much.
Yeah,
it's just like a very washed down experience of a balance.
Right. It's also a little bit like complaining about whatever, right?
Yeah, it's always a little bit about complaining.
But it's such a useful like shorthand. It's funny because like everyone else, Warhammer didn't invent like the points values in games. and everyone else does it too. But it's just sort of like a, like statistically, there's probably more people who play Warhammer 40K than like every other game combined. So it does have kind of an outsized like weight and impact on like what miniatures gaming like. It's kind of funny actually when you mentioned it, like last week or whenever it was, because I had just done a blog post like defending points values, because I wanted to kind of do the other side. So this makes it kind of full circle. So you had to go read the blog. We'll link it afterwards.
Okay, yeah, we'll throw it in.
Which was kind of why I thought points values sometimes get a little bit of a hard rep, because I think they have a lot of valuable use cases. But now we will take the other tack, which is, of course, also. I actually think, I sometimes wonder if discussions about points aren't actually discussions about something else instead. Because a lot of times, they mention it in the podcast episode too, video, podcast, whatever, that it really is more about like I guess, they even have an acronym for it in like the Warhammer community: win at all costs. WAC.
Yeah, whack. Yeah,
whack.
whack.
And I think points values are partially a reaction to that more so than something else. Like, it's the idea that the game is primarily about like, well, winning at all costs, right? So even if your army is stupid or kind of exploitative, like a lot of games have a thing where like there's some unit that is pretty good on its own, but if you take like 5 of them, you just like break the game in half, right?
Yeah.
Or, because they put a unit in that was like a little, like they play tested it and found that this unit would be good at 100 points, so they're going to make it 95 just to give it like a little, it's not a bad thing in an army list to have a couple of options that are like a little better than they ought to be. That's okay. But it's better if you then make that unit like 0 to 1, or like if you can just pick them freely. Anyone who played like Warhammer 40K in 3rd edition and played against Eldar, like the Wraith Lord being ridiculously good, wasn't a problem if you took 1, but if you took like 3 of them, or those fucking like special armies that could take more, or like Iron Warriors armies that loaded up with like 4 like huge tanks or something, like a lot of stuff like that is fine on its own, but when you are playing, building the army list in order to win is kind of like the first step, that can kind of, like, some people enjoy that, right? Like, you build like the meanest army you can, and you bring it, and you see, it's like making decks in like Magic the Gathering. You want to build like the coolest or mean, like if your friend plays a certain way, then you bring some stuff that like fuck with their style, right?
Yep.
And that can be really fun, but if it's the only thing you do, and it can also like, because at some point, like, I think it's pretty rare that in a group of people playing, like everyone is equally good at that. So at some point you get a situation where like one player is winning like 3/4 of the time, or even worse, you like solve the game. So you build like an army that nobody can beat most of the time, right? And then you just play that all the time. And at some point, that's the kind of stuff that gets people to like just not want to play the game anymore, or just not play games at all anymore, which is even worse. So I think when people are complaining about points values, a lot of times they're really complaining about that like win at all costs, very competitive mentality. And also, like, some people just don't enjoy highly, like, there's people who will play a competitive game, but they will do so if it's pretty chill, like, and there's people who don't enjoy like competitive games at all, in which case you can still, there are miniatures games now you can play, obviously, like cooperative or but like a lot of times, because I played with some people when I was in Portland, a lot of the people I played minis with, because I didn't find anybody really who was a minis gamer, so I had to like convert RPG folks, usually, or board game folks, and the RPG folks often, they were people who were interested in playing miniatures, but they were not interested in like the competitive aspect, like the idea of like being really like try hard and trying to get one over and stuff was just completely not. So we played very like casually, even if you did play like quote competitively, like you're playing to win, complete your objectives or whatever the case is, but it was very like chill. Like at the end, a lot of times we would just look at the table and just kind of agree on like who won. Not even like count points or something. You just like, well, you're on the objective, but your dudes kind of got shot to shit. My dudes are kind of like, they all ran away, but they did save most of their guys. Like sometimes both sides would have won, or even both sides lost, depending. But but it was very like just pulling the like that sort of edgy like competitive edge out of it alone.
Mhm.
So I might be talking out of my ass, but that's kind of the feel. A lot of the feeling I get is that where people just want to pull back, and the easiest way to pull back on that hyper competitive edge is to just make it so that you can't do that.
Mhm.
You know, like so I think that's a big element of it. I think there's also a little bit of an element of it that is just kind of like resentment that Warhammer like took over everything, and that a lot of times if you go to a club or something or a store, the only thing you can get a game of is like Warhammer or maybe Bolt Action,
Yeah.
depending on where you live. I think there's a little bit of like resentment over that because it's hard to find. You know, like if you're rocking up an old copy of like Disposable Heroes or I don't know, like even Infinity can be hard to find players for if you don't live in the right area.
Yeah, exactly.
So it can be really frustrating to like find, you know, the only thing anyone. And then when the only game you can get is a Warhammer game, and then it turns out the only thing people want to do is 1,500 points and only pick from these 5 scenarios because nobody
Yeah.
wants to touch any of the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I think you can get into that. Yeah, like there is a little bit of kind of like, well, fuck these guys, you know. Like we're gonna go do our own thing. That may or may not be like the original way, right?
Yeah. It is tough though. I mean, I'm just gonna look at my notes real quick.
You made notes.
So
I didn't.
Yeah, I just like wrote down a few things so I knew I'd forget. This is written like 9 days ago. So I listened to the episode. I'm like, okay, I got thoughts. I got to write them down. Oh, I'll forget.
Yeah.
So
and then you did forget the thoughts. So
yeah, exactly. So now I got to read them and figure out what I was thinking. So I said, no points. If no points, then what? Narrative story. Historical games have the benefit of a known force composition and battlefield conditions.
Yeah.
So like that's if you want to play someone that you don't.
Yeah, that's a good place to start, right? Because that's kind of because you're right. You have to do something. Like at some point, you got to figure out like what am I bringing and what are you bringing. And historical games do kind of have like the sort of shorthand, I guess, because you can say like if we're playing World War II, like okay, our scenario is going to be 2 Soviet battalions attacking a reinforced German battalion. Like we can go look up, or the rules probably say what that means. You get three of these, 6 of these, 5 of these. Then we add like a few extra things, and that kind of gets you like most of the way there. You know, like Chain of Command has. Well, you start with the platoon, although it technically does have a point because they're all rated for how good they are. But you get a few extra points, and there's like a random factor. You can add like 1 or 2 extra things to it. But the basis is like a real historical thing. Obviously, if you're fighting like an actual battle, you can look up and see that the 3rd like latrine digging division was there, and you can put those on the table. But if you don't have that, then yeah, you have to come up with something else. And I think there's a funny bit because in some way you do have to kind of like quantify things in your head just to make the scenario like kind of make sense. Like if you have like. Let's say we're playing like a sci-fi game and we decide like you're like the guards protecting a convoy and I have the pirates and I'm going to take their shit. And we say, okay, well, the guards, because you have some models you want to use, they have armor and laser rifles and stuff. So they're like pretty okay troops. And my pirates are like a bit shit. So we already know I need more guys, right? So we might say, okay, maybe I need like 1.5. You have 20 guys. Maybe I need 30. But then I also have to like attack over open ground, but then maybe some of my guys are hidden. So that like you end up going through this process, at least if you're like haggling it out, where like you're almost like doing points anyway, just in like an abstract way.
Yeah.
Because the simplest is to look at like how many dudes do you got? Like if a goblin is worth half an elf, then that just means the elf is 1 point and the goblin is worth half a point, right? So yeah, exactly. Like, you know, if we're saying, okay, if I have double the goblins you do, and then you have a wizard, so then I need 2 wizards, and you get a dragon, so I need like, you know,
exactly.
You can negotiate that, or if you're writing a scenario, you can do all that in your head, but you're still kind of like calculating it out. Now, I think the other part is that people are, I think, kind of sick of sitting with like the army list and a piece of paper and a calculator and like adding shit together, and you realize you have 4 points left, but there's nothing in the army list that cost 4. Or like to take the models you want to use will only add up to like being 17 points over the limit, and there's just nothing you can do about it because you always end up in those like bullshit situations, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, do you want to check the chat real quick?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up. We got a story about Scald's username, which we'll touch base with a little bit later. Right now, though, so Scald says, if no points equals, let's put all our painted models on the table. Come up with a win conditions as we set the terrain and let's go. Which is, it's fun in the right situation. Absolutely.
Yeah. Ironically, I feel like that was kind of when Warhammer like brought back, they called it open play, which was meant for that kind of stuff. We just bring a bunch of stuff and like figure it out.
Or when Age of Sigmar came out for the first time, they're like, there's no points. You just bring what you want. Look at the other person, decide, can I beat them? If you both agree that you have a chance, then you go.
Right. I remember for a while doing like World War II stuff, and we got into, because we had this idea that historical games weren't supposed to have points, because they were like, but then we didn't really know what to do because we hadn't really played anything else before in that sense. So what we ended up doing was we would each like grab some stuff we wanted to use, and then we would like line it up next to each other, and then you would take turns like removing something from either army. And then, but when it was your turn to remove something, you could instead choose to just pick one of the armies and play it the way it was. I forget how it worked. But yeah, it was basically this like, I think one of the armies was like set, and you would take turns removing from the other army. But instead of removing something, you could just say, I will play it now. I don't remember. It worked okay, but it was definitely us like trying to like figure it out. But you also get that thing when like, this definitely happened when we started playing Warhammer, where like nobody had an army yet. Like you have one squad of Space Marines and a guy, and your friend has like a Rhino and two squads of something, and so you kind of get that Skull suggests. You just kind of like what do you got painted so far? That's what goes on the table. It's a little different when you actually have like a collection to build from, or you're just Coke canning like the Space Marines or whatever.
For me, the one thing is that you can't count on your opponent. Like, we all have interacted with people who are cool and people who are not cool whatsoever. And trying to negotiate a situation like that with certain people, I think, would be quite a nightmare. So, you have 3 hours to play your miniatures game, say, and you show up and there's this guy or this lady, and they're going to be totally difficult about the whole thing. They're always pushing back, or they're trying to like psychologically intimidate you somehow, or bully their way through this opinion that they have, or maybe you'll do the same. It's hard to say, but so then you're spending like all that time trying to get started. And how much time do you have left to game?
Right. Remember, if you're not gaming with an asshole, it means you are the asshole.
That's right. That's
because every table has one. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Now, if you have a game master to run it, like true old school, then obviously that solves it, because the game master just says you get 3 tanks and you get 2,000 tanks, and that's the scenario. And then
you go. Thanks for showing up.
Yeah, exactly. But that does kind of solve it. It's harder when it's just 2 of you, unless you're just really in tune with each other. Like I gamed with people where we could just eyeball it, and at some point we say, okay, yeah, this is close enough.
Exactly.
And I've gamed with people who absolutely like would not do that. I've also a guy I used to game with. Unfortunately, he's passed away now. But he was more a role player, but he got but it was funny because certain games, like if somebody had suggested playing like Warhammer 40K or War Machine or something without using the points and army list, it would not even compute that was a thing you could do. But when I taught him to play, I don't think Chain of Command was out. I think we were playing Troops, Weapons, and Tactics. He was totally on board with the idea that you just have like a real platoon and maybe they have a tank in support or something, because it was a different game and it was okay in those rules. So I think like whatever the game sort of assumes, I think goes a long way, because people will just expect the game to work the way that like the book says it does, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like some people get and maybe there's also an element of investment. Like if you're like if I painted like 200 space orcs, maybe I have a different level of investment than if I painted like 30 like World War II Germans, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
that could be
also true.
So I mean, it might, or you're playing, some people enjoy different games for different reasons. Maybe I don't know why you would specifically play 40k for your competitive fix, because that's not a good pick. But like War Machine was kind of like, or Infinity is supposed to be like very tightly balanced, or games like that. Maybe you play that for that like cutthroat, like when we play Infinity, like it's everything is like on the line, like you're doing everything as hard as possible. Whereas when you sit down to play like Chain of Command, then it's kind of chill and it's more about a story and narrative. We got a request, I think. Well, we got a
Is
request.
The favor a favor to ask?
We got
all
a
right. What are we predicting this favor is going to be?
Borrow money.
Could be.
So
could be bills, hospital bills, right?
Yeah. Cat video. I have Lancelot like sleeping right now.
So we got cat.
We get some cat action.
Yeah.
So a little dance. I'm not getting out of my chair, buddy, but I'll dance in my chair.
I'm not getting out. One thing they did bring up in the podcast, which I had to agree with, it's a situation I've never seen myself, and I live in a big city. Is I've never actually seen people just like show up to play a pickup game. This is baffling to me.
I've seen stores.
I know it exists. I've just never actually seen it in the wild. I've never seen someone sitting there with an army waiting to go.
I've seen it in stores where people did it, but it always seemed like it was the same kind of people that like they would meet and play.
Yeah.
Like when we played with, sorry, I was being distracted because I think there was some weirdness there.
Yeah. I don't know. Might have moved on now. Press some buttons. We'll see.
Yeah, like I've one story went a long time ago. There was some people who came in pretty regularly, and they kind of did, but that was more like 3 or 4 guys, and like a couple of us will be at the store on Friday, and you bring an army and then you play somebody, like, so it's almost like a club thing. Like I think if you're playing a gaming club, then, but I don't know if people just like roll into a store like unknown, just bringing their Imperial Fist just in case. Like maybe that's not a. Yeah, I think it's more like a club or like an extended. Like if some of you are gonna be at the club, it's like you go down to the gaming store or whatever, and you bring your Magic deck just in case there's something going on or something.
Yeah,
so,
like I've definitely like
Skull's last comment.
I have definitely played games where everyone arranges to go, and then you bring your army, and then you get assigned who you're going to play in scenarios and things.
Yeah, we did that a lot in like college, where like like 3 or 4 people just agree we're going to play Warhammer, and then everyone just brings their standard like 1,500 point army. And sometimes you bring a different army that you're trying out. Sometimes you bring just the usual stuff, and then when you show up, okay, we got 4, so we figure out who play each other.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. So Scald says, I guess I'll start with the first one. Actually.
Oh, yeah.
The problem with points
in multiple parts.
Yeah. The problem with points are that it always becomes an issue of balanced army lists.
Yes.
And on the other hand, the problem with scenarios is that you need to have balanced armies unless you like asymmetrical wargaming.
Yeah. There's actually a pet peeve of mine, because historical gamers, or especially people who are interested in historical games but don't play that much, I think, will always argue with scenarios if you don't give the attackers like 3-to-1 advantage, because that's supposed to be the 3-to-1 is what you need. But the problem with that is that 3-to-1 is what armies want to ensure that they win. Because if you're in the real army where you're going to fucking die, you want to make sure that the odds are ever in your favor. And bringing like 30 of your guys to take 10 of theirs tend to mean that you win. But on the gaming table, we don't want a sure thing. We want it to be like up in the air. Which usually is a lot closer to like 1.5-to-1 or 2-to-1. Like 2-to-1 in a lot of games will honestly still be pretty heavy.
Yeah,
but I agree. You do have to balance. That's the thing, right? Like a scenario still has to balance the armies, and I think that's another part of it, because people will often say that they don't like. There's no balanced armies in real life, but the scenario, like if I have double the guys, but the objectives are all over on your side, then that is supposed to be balancing thing, because I have to cross, probably while getting shot to bits.
Yeah.
And you have some cover, like. That's still supposed to be balancing things out. Now, it may not balance better with points anyway. If I have 2,000 points, you have 1,000, that may not work any better. But yes, you still have to like find some way to balance it out. Like I said earlier, sometimes you're just like counting dudes,
Mhm.
Like if you have 50 elves and I have 200 goblins, is that enough if you start on the objectives and there's like difficult terrain and you're uphill? I don't know. Yeah, probably. But then we're kind of back to saying, okay, well, if goblins are 1 point, then elves are 4, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, um, unless of course you're like one of those weirdos who will literally have like 2 identical armies. I've seen people do that. And like do completely symmetrical, like mirror images of the terrain on both sides. So each side has like one hill, one tree, or something.
Yeah,
Like,
which is pretty interesting, honestly. I've never played it myself, but
yeah, it's very like I suppose it becomes like the most like chess then if you have the exact same options on both sides, But it definitely becomes like very abstract because that's the other part. One of the things that was kind of in that video. There was another video I watched recently too with a guy who was sort of having the same experience of like just getting into more story oriented gaming and finding that it was much more rewarding. And it was kind of the thing of just like there is a reason for the battle to happen, a little bit of context. You have some characters, maybe you have some named things, or just you come up with a reason why these guys are fighting. Like it's not just some Italians and some British. Like this takes place on the 3rd of July and it's in the lead up to Operation Crusader or whatever. Like just so there's like a little more heft to it. I just don't know because I think it gets assumed that is instead of using points, but I don't think those two are actually connected. I think you can do all of that even if you use the army list. Like, there's nothing that says if you play bolt action and you make I don't know what the points are, 1,000 points or something. If you make 2,000-point armies, there's nothing that says you can't still go ahead and put that in a real context and it's the 3rd of July and yada yada yada. Like, I don't think those are mutually exclusive. I think I think there's like a style element to it that people who are more likely to prefer the narrative stuff are also more likely to want to just like pick up troops that make sense instead of being bound by a list. But I don't know that I think it has to be that way or that it even like necessarily like supports it more or less. I think that's just a function of who does it. I'm going to try and plug my mouse into charge and then hope the cat does not try to sleep on it. He's like,
so I had one thought.
Here.
Aw, adorable.
Yes.
I love sleeping cats.
Yes.
So I had one thought about if I was trying to imagine a pickup game, people approaching, like just waiting there with an army without points, then what would that look like? And one thought was, can these be procedurally generated? So each person brought their army. And then you just start, like, I guess it's going to have to be a certain genre. Like, it could be World War II or whatever. And you just start rolling on charts.
You could. I mean, if you say, like...
Here's the thing. You can bring, like, these. Do you have those? Yes. Then you're allowed to bring them. If you don't have them, I guess. Should have brought them. Too bad for you.
Yeah, or you could do, like, if it's, like, we each bring a platoon, and then we roll for, like, 2, like, support units or something, right?
Yeah, and then like roll the scenarios and attacker, defender, or neither. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you could do something like that. Where again, that's the thing with historicals. Although you can like some sci-fi games have had like tables of organization and equipment and stuff like that, where you kind of get some of that. It is again kind of the benefit of historicals that you do have some like real life parameters because you can have a starting point and say, okay, you have a platoon of guys. And then you can add like more support to it or things like that. But again, it keeps coming back to like you're still at some point you got to like count out heads, right?
Yeah. Well, if your goal isn't necessarily to eliminate each other, right?
Yeah.
Because if your goal is I just need to get over there to that computer and grab that thing and then leave over on this side, if that's the objective I rolled up, then I don't actually have to worry about killing you. Yeah. And maybe your objective is to kill me, or maybe you have to do something else entirely, and we're just kind of getting each other's way.
Well, so you can actually do it the other way around, or backwards, I think, because instead of having the scenario first and then picking armies, you can almost do it in reverse then, where you...
Yeah, exactly.
Like, especially if you're like rolling for it, or it's semi-random or whatever, you see like, okay, I brought a platoon of guys, and I want to use them. Then we roll on the some tables or whatever, and I get like 2 trucks. And you get like a big mean tank. So then we go, okay, what scenario kind of works here? What conditions work? So maybe my dudes have to like start not spotted and I have to sneak around or something, or I don't know. But you do it reverse base. You see what troops you have to play with, and then you find like a scenario that works with them. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Even if you're just like bringing stuff, like I brought a platoon of guys, you brought like a whole ton of guys. Like, okay, well then maybe this is like a last stand. My dudes are like entrenched on a hill, and you just have to like hurl bodies at them until they win, right?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like fun things you could do that don't involve points, I think, as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
even from like a completely random game where you don't understand what's going to happen to begin with, or why you're even there.
I remember when we got a hold of the Rogue Trader book, we would play games where we would just each player got one squad and one vehicle, and we just roll on the tables to see what you got.
Okay, yeah.
And I remember one game where one of us rolled basically like a super tough tank brimming with heavy weapons, and the other guy rolled a little hover vehicle which had a auto gun and a radiation counter on it. And that was it.
Yeah.
So there's some, depending on how random things get, you can get into some situations. It turns out a radiation counter is not that valuable in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium.
It's true. But if the victory conditions where you have to go over to this spot, take a measurement and then leave, then, it's not so bad then.
No.
You just get shot at for a while and then you run off.
Yeah, we weren't clever enough.
Yeah. Yeah, so I do believe, scenarios definitely, they have to do all the heavy lifting, I think, if there's no points, really.
Yes. So the balance in asymmetrical... Oh, go ahead.
The balance in asymmetrical scenarios should be made through victory conditions. Then it becomes a discussion of, we did great, but we die tomorrow. Many more get rescued at Dunkirk, thanks to us. Yay! Obviously, it's really hard to create good victory conditions.
Yes. That is hard, even in the best of times. But I think it's also, if you're already kind of on the level where you're interested in trying out more narrative gaming, you're interested in trying out more story-driven or scenario-driven stuff, I think you also kind of have to arm yourself that there's going to be times you just kind of get it wrong. Like, you misjudged how far like the troops have to go, or you misjudge like how strong the defenders really are, or like how well these two forces really compare to each other. Like you're just gonna get it wrong sometimes, and I think you have to just kind of embrace like if you're a more realism oriented player, like in real life, like sometimes commanders just got to eat shit because it turns out the enemy had a lot of anti-tank guns and the objectives were unrealistic. That's in itself kind of realistic, I suppose.
But I mean, Warhammer 40K has alpha strikes, so like it's not guaranteed because you have points, so you're gonna have a nice balanced game where you got to do things.
Yeah, you may well be doomed after turn one because you're playing at a gaming store and the only terrain they have is like two little trees, and you just got blown away by the tow. But yeah, you do have like arm yourself with a little more patience in that sense. And like it is, I think a lot of people also get hesitant because they don't think they can do it well, or they're afraid that like, oh, the game is gonna suck if we like screw it up. But I think if you're like a little open-minded to it and just accept like, okay, it's gonna be a little weird, it's gonna be a little different, but you're gonna like dial that in. It's like game mastering like an RPG campaign, right? Like the first time you like run a D&D game, and it turns out that 4 level 1 characters can't fight 50 ball rocks or whatever. Who would have known? The next time you can
rookies.
Next time you can tone down the amount of demons a little bit. So, or you can just add more demons, and that's what the game is. Also, if you're like really, really shit at making scenarios, at some point people will just ask somebody else to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the one guy nobody wants to run D&D because he's just shit at it.
I found that scenarios needs like 5 to 6 playthroughs with tweaks in between before they even start to get decent.
Yeah, so that can be now you can save a little time if you kind of like use some variations. Like if you figured out if you're playing something in a specific system, once you played a couple of like, okay, if you're playing, I don't know, like American Civil War or something, and you figured out that using these particular rules, if the defenders are like on high ground, it kind of needs to work like this. Once you've done that a couple of times with a few scenarios, then you'll start being able to just like tweak a few things, because then you can say, okay, they're defending the high ground, but they have half the troops because they arrived from the flank and reinforcements or something. You can you can take a scenario you already know will work okay, and you can like tweak that. So instead of starting from scratch each time. or you can mess with the force compositions. If you've mostly done the scenario where the attackers are mostly infantry, maybe this time they have a whole bunch of cavalry or something. Or maybe they arrive like from 2 different corners, or like, so you can save a little bit of the work by like reusing things you've done, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is true sometimes, especially if it's like a convention game or something, or a club game where you ideally want, maybe you do want to like do a test run or something. A lot of times when I was introducing games to people when I was younger, I would always like just play the game against myself first, just to like, because then you can get an idea of like, oh, okay, this unit is like super powerful or whatever. And you can kind of like, so the first time we did play and I was teaching it, it would not be like a massive disaster because you didn't understand how something worked, or, because a lot of times just reading the rules, you won't necessarily know like what units are like really strong or what's, like you misunderstand morale and it turns out your whole army just disappears in one go.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
not knowing the rules is also like a form of asymmetrical combat.
No, this is true.
So we're going to take one brief pause just for 1 sec, and we're going to give a big thanks to Bedroom Battlefields. They don't sponsor us, but they do support us quite a bit. And we're putting in a little commercial break right about here.
You once ruled the realms with dice and a sword, painted goblins till tea, then your minis were stored. You grew up, got a job, bought a flat, wore a tie, swapped dragons for deadlines, your brushes went dry. Now the dishes are done and the kids are in bed. You climb to the attic to raise the undead. Crack open the paints that you swore you'd outgrown. The smell of acrylic, it feels like you're home. There's grey in your beard, even more on your head, but you're splashing some colour on plastic and lead. So welcome back, General. What took you so long? Your hobby's still here. It's the place you belong. The Bedroom Battlefields Tabletop Miniature Hobby Podcast. Find it at bedroombattlefields.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Perfect. And so you will have heard the Bedroom Battlefields. It's kind of like a poem. It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
And reruns. Yeah.
Now this means that if you're listening to this live, now you have to go back and watch the whole thing all over, so you can see what the little ad is.
That's right. Or check it out on any of the podcasts that we are broadcasted on because of Bedroom Battlefields. They do 100% of the work.
Yes.
I do 0%. I just send him the file and then he takes care of the rest.
To be fair, he also does it for 100% of the pay, which is 0.
It's true. Yeah, that's all that profit right there.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's all like hobby, like severe. That's what makes this like so fun to do. It's like it's something that's just strictly like because it's fun to do and because you get to hear from like interesting people.
Yeah, all sorts of opinions from guys you never or gals you never played against before.
Yeah, exactly. So
I love the banter on the game table.
That's why you do need some pickup games.
And we're going to touch base for 1 sec on Scald's origin story for Ain't Like You, B for B. Long story short, it's a song with a hardcore band from Boston, which quickly turned into my anthem. Which hardcore band, though, is it?
Yeah, I was going to say, I only know like 2, unfortunately. So
2 Boston hardcore bands.
I don't even think they're from Boston. I think they're from New York, so that doesn't make it any better. Where's Biohazard is from super like New York, isn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like
I can't think.
Once the amount of cargo shorts exceeds a certain amount, they're just from New York City.
Yeah. So
I
it
do
seems
have somewhere I have some camouflage cargo shorts, so I could masquerade as like a hardcore fan, but I think they usually you gotta have short hair. You can't be rocking the Nordic heavy metal hair.
Let's see. Well, let's touch base with Scald's messages. Reusing scenarios is great, even between systems and eras. Also, stealing from RL.
Oh, real life
is a given. Real life, yeah, of course. Of course, real life. My favorite battles to run in different systems is the 1066 battles that created England.
Hey, that reminds me of a thing I've always wanted to do is to test the same scenario, but in like a bunch of different systems. So you find like, let's say it's like World War II, like platoon level, and you go through like 5 different games that all work at platoon level, and you play the same basic setups, so the same troops, same terrain, and everything in each of those scenarios to see how they like play out differently or how different they really go. Just to see like, because there's always that like sneaking suspicion. We spend so much time looking at rules and reading rule books and stuff, and hopefully buying them for me. But there's always that like sneaking suspicion that it makes no difference whatsoever, and you could literally just play anything.
Yeah.
There was an old blog post with a guy who I don't remember what game he played, but he said it was a game, World War II game that didn't have any points in it, and he said he just used the points from bolt action. And somebody asked him like, well, how does that work when you don't have the same stats and the tanks aren't rated the same? He's like, it works fine. Like a Panther is a little better than a Sherman, so it costs a bit more. That's all you need to know, which may well be true. Like maybe the exact amounts don't matter. All that matters is that on a big enough scale, like it's all just relative to each other. You know,
makes sense. Honestly,
yeah. Like the Italians should be a bit cheaper than the British. For the North Africa, does it matter like what specific abilities they got? Probably not.
Yeah, so especially like Shermans and Tiger or Panthers are known quantities. You know, like Eldar Wraithwalkers and
yeah, I guess a little harder. Yeah. Although maybe you still could. I don't know. Somebody can test it with like Rogue Hammer, just like use. I guess you have to figure out like it gets a little too abstract. But yeah, his basic idea was just like the relationship between the troops are about the same, regardless of what your actual rules are. Like it doesn't matter how many armor points a Sherman has. It's a little worse than a Panther and a little better than a Panzer III. You know, that's all you need to know. So
and then Scald also said the 2 asymmetrical scenarios in a pitched battle to end the campaign.
Oh yeah, for a 1066,
which is fun. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I know there's a lot of people who have like a favorite battle they'll kind of like rebrand for different historical periods or even for science fiction or stuff because they know the battle or it makes it interesting. Like you could set up Waterloo and like a bunch of different things, you know, and still have it come out as like a pretty fun scenario, and you get to sort of like you just sort of have to like mentally translate like do the cavalry become tanks or whatever. Yeah, totally works.
And the Zulu Alamo, you know, classic. Siege on all sides.
Yeah, any of those. Like, I know they did like a 140k scenario based on Zulu back in the day when they did the Praetorian guys. Yeah, like the Alamo is easy to do. Like, I think a lot of sci-fi stuff has at some point like done essentially like a Stalingrad battle and stuff like that. You know, I mean, people used to do it for like movie scenes as well. Like, I know when Starship Troopers came out, everyone was coming up with the stuff that was inspired by scenes in the Starship Troopers movie.
Overrun by bugs.
Yeah, actually, I've started. Somebody had uploaded. I think it's a pirate upload, but somebody had uploaded all of the animated show, Roughneck Chronicles. I was rewatching it. And I was like, "This is actually not bad. Like, it's kind of for kids.
It was good,
but
yeah,
it was pretty good. It's very gameable. They're all like, so yeah." Well, let's check it out. I think you just go to YouTube and like look for it. You can find it. But I'm pretty sure it was not like authorized. It's some dude.
No.
The trick to finding like pirate shit on YouTube is you have to find a guy who's uploaded everything, but he has like 17 subscribers because then it'll never like get big enough that it gets noticed and taken down. There was some account they finally got him, but for like a couple of years he had like all of Macross like uploaded.
Nice.
Like Japanese DVD rips or something. This was when you couldn't stream it legally anywhere. I think now it's available, but yeah, just make sure to look for like weirdos with 17 followers who are just uploading like a bunch of stuff.
I was I hit a YouTube rabbit hole where like for some reason on my feed popped up this show about like this guy talking about this show from Nickelodeon called Space Cases and why he loved it, you know, and how you can't find it anywhere. And Nickelodeon just like gave it the finger and said we'll never stream it, you know, and then the creator died penniless or whatever. And it like reminded me, I'm like, there was a show I wanted to watch in the 90s. I've never been able to remember the name of, so then did big rabbit hole, but I found out on YouTube. It turns out it's all there. It's Hypernauts.
Oh, okay. I was looking for because I remembered like I feel like when I was a teenager, this is like the digression zone of the episode to where it just gets weird. But I remember as a teenager, like if you were watching like because there wasn't that much like sci-fi TV like at all, like late like 90s era basically. But there were like they would always have them on at like Saturday afternoon. So if you were like home and none of your friends were home, you were just like sitting around being fucking bored. And your mom had been yelling at you to stop playing computer games. So you were trying to find something to watch on TV. And they were always either from Australia or like, I swear like 3/4 of them were just like shot in Toronto. Some of them were Australian. But these like kind of mid to low budget like sci-fi shows that nobody had ever heard of and none of your friends had heard of. So I went to look for them, and then it turned out that like there was for a while there was like 1,000 different like sci-fi shows that were all like made in Canada that I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
And a bunch of them were on YouTube, so I was adding a bunch of stuff to my watch later list. Like, this looks dreadful. I'm gonna watch that. So,
Canada is a giant producer of TV.
Yeah, well, apparently it was cheap too.
Yeah.
I was rewatching because somebody had uploaded all of that dreadful Tech War show from it's William Shatner actually.
Oh yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah, the whole story, I guess, is that he didn't actually write it, but he like came up with it and then like had a ghostwriter. But the TV show is hilarious because they didn't have enough budget for like much in the way of effects. So like the like dreadful like dark future of cyber LA or whatever is just like downtown Toronto.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
adds up.
with scenes shot in front of like obvious like landmarks and stuff.
Yeah.
So like there's one scene where in the book, because I read the first of the books on a whim, like they go down to Mexico to find this guerrilla fighter who's like battling the federales down there and stuff. And in the show or the movie, it's literally just like a forest outside of Toronto.
Yeah.
So they had to change the character to be like some sort of like environmentalist because doesn't really look like a war zone in Mexico. It's a little too green. But yeah, so lots of like weird Canadian sci-fi. But I actually didn't find what I was looking for because it was one of those where I didn't remember the names of any of the shows. I only remember like glimpses of scenes that stuck in your mind for like 20 years or 30 years. So I couldn't find anything that was like, okay, this is definitely one of the shows I watched when I was like 13 and surfing channels. So maybe it didn't work, but yeah.
Briefly describe it and I'll see if I can figure it out.
Well, that's a problem because some of them are like super vague. Like they're just like weird clips. There's like one that was like a post-apocalyptic series, and they had like some sort of escape pod or travel pod that was like their base, but then they had to like go out in the world and like find clean water and stuff. And it was all like all the characters were kind of teenagers, and like I said, just remember like bits and glimpses, like being drunk and falling asleep while your friends are watching a movie. You wake up and see like one scene, so that's the only thing you remember. Like,
yeah,
it's like having watched The Mummy, but the only scene you remember is like when they're trying to hang like Brandon Fraser's character.
Oh yeah, Brandon Fraser.
Yeah, like that's mean. He's a nice guy. You just drunk slept through like the entire rest of the movie. Like, was there a mummy in that movie?
That is one handy thing about AI now, is that sometimes you could like type these vague things in from a period, and AI can kind of figure it out. So that's where I got Hypernauts from. But there's this anime I watched where it was like all women in the future because men were too violent. So like they only had like a population like 1% men on Earth. And like ladies were just scared of like dudes. They didn't want anything to do with them. Like they're considered dangerous and bad. And they're in space and they're going, I'm pretty sure it was like through the solar system. And they had one guy on board for some reason. And they found like this old spaceship that had like 3 guys frozen in cryogenics. And they're like, we're like our period of time of guys and they're just assholes. And it was an anime and it was around like 20, 25 years ago. But every time I type it in the AI, it says it's Vandred. I'm like, it's not Vandred. I know it's not Vandred.
Oh, yeah. That's a downside.
Like,
it'll
I don't know if this show actually exists at this point. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, too. You remember, like, there was some scene that was, like, very vividly stuck in my mind for years. And I finally found out many years later that it was, like, from a Flash Gordon, like, serial that was on TV at some point. But I didn't remember what it was. The only thing I remember was that it was like really scary because there was these dudes coming out of the walls in like a cave or something. But yeah, it was like a Flash Gordon. Now in hindsight, it was a lot less scary because like 1950s television. But as a kid, it left an impact. But yeah,
on an old CRT TV, it's very scary.
Yeah, it's like grainy and like it sort of adds a little. Some of those things like lose a little bit when you're watching it on like ultra. It's like playing Nintendo games on your PC on like a sharp display. It just kind of looks bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So,
or when they like remastered Buffy the Vampire Slayer, they used the original footage, but it was never intended to be used, so it was always supposed to be in SD. And when they made it HD, they just had like random extras like floating around, just doing nothing in particular.
Yeah, because they also changed the aspect ratio, right?
Yeah. So it was originally filmed in like 16:9, but it was never meant to be displayed in 16:9. They always meant to cut it down to 4:3.
Yeah, that's
so like you just have like randos, like crap just floating around that was never supposed to be shown.
And then nobody like edited that or took a look at it. It was like, fuck it, we'll sell like 10 million like DVD sets.
Yeah, it's fine.
So, yeah, that's some shit, man.
Okay, I got a mystery here. So my notes that I wrote down, I said, like the first two make sense, but the third one I have no idea what I was talking about. So let's see if you can guess.
All right.
If you show up with your entire army, how will the game decide what can be fielded and what cannot? Which we definitely covered. How can scenarios be generated for such a broad spectrum of historical periods, sci-fi and fantasy? Which we didn't really cover, but I think, we got kind of the conclusion that it doesn't matter that much.
Yeah, but, like you can make really specific scenarios, but there's also a lot that's just kind of like generic. Like your dudes are on a hill and my dudes want to be on the hill. That's kind of works for everybody, right?
Yeah. And if the future it's a computer, in World War II, it's some, like radio broadcast tapes or whatever.
Like you can kind of
and like back in time, it's a book. I don't know. It's like all kind of the same objective point. But then I said, are there scales of miniatures that make the most sense and scales that make no sense whatsoever?
Well, I think releasing a range of 18 millimeter figures that you don't complete makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
But that's completely random off the top of my head. That's not a reference to Kurasan's World War I line at all.
No.
If you make your range a head taller than everyone else's 15 millimeter and then don't finish them, no, it's I don't know. The question might make sense, but I don't think the answer is actually that it matters. Question mark. Like there's gonna be some stuff if you're playing like stands versus single figures, maybe. Like some things aren't gonna work as well, but I don't know that it's I guess the test of it would be if you have a copy of that like 1 hour war games book that everyone was raving about a few years ago, because they had like I think 15 scenarios in the bag and they're super generic, and the units are really generic. Each player always has 6 units and there's only like 4 types for each period, so it's like I'm trying to remember, but it's like, so I think the Roman one is like infantry, archers, cavalry, and skirmishers or something like that. So each of the periods only has 4 unit types. You always have 6. And the scenarios are just super broad. It's like you have a hill and a forest and Army A wants to end the game on the hill kind of thing. Like they're supposed to be usable from ancients all the way to World War II. So they're like boiled down to the most generic you possibly can. But it's almost at the point where it stops being a scenario because like my guys want to capture the hill. You don't need a book to tell you that. You can just do that. You can just say like, oh yeah, like our terrain, we have like a big bunker. So we put my guys on the bunker or in the bunker and your guys have to take it. That's the scenario. Yeah. Like that doesn't solve a lot of the other questions we talked about. But like, if you're just trying to make a scenario like as a setup and play, like that's a scenario, or like you just painted a new like cool hero, so maybe we'll have like a hero battle, and in order to win, one of your heroes has to kill an opposing hero. I like stuff like that is like that's like the Warhammer open play thing. We just kind of like come up with it on the fly, and you don't put that much like thought and stuff into it.
Let's see. We got Scald says 32 millimeter doesn't make any sense for anything else than making 28 millimeter collections obsolete to some game systems. It brings nothing new to the hobby side.
We definitely get older, we definitely need to have a complaining about scales discussion at some point. That's how we get some of the groks involved.
I think that my question, I think I wanted myself just to say that 15 millimeter is actually the answer.
Yes,
that's the one that makes sense. Yes. Yeah, because you can single base it or you can multi base it. It always looks good on the table. Yeah, you can always have lots of vehicles or little amount of vehicles or no vehicles whatsoever. It's all going to be great.
You can tell who each guy is, or you can buy like 10 tanks and still not be broke. It is wonderful and lovely. I was talking to, it was my friend Michael I was talking to the other day about, because we were trying to figure out if Victrix was still going to continue the 12 millimeter plastic World War II line or not.
Oh, yes.
Now, it turns out, because for a while, it was a long time since they last released anything. Now, he emailed them and they answered they were still working on it. They were doing, I think, Africa Corps next, which is one of the things people have been waiting for. Because I think they had done like British and shorts, but then it took just like two years to do the Germans. But they're still working on it. But we got to talking about like, and especially with like slightly weird scales and stuff like that, how often you can like get fucked because you buy into something and then the manufacturer stops making it, or there's only one company that makes it at all. Like, and sometimes it's okay. Like, if you want to play like 18 millimeter World War I specifically, like that's just your jam. That's what you're born to do. You can buy Blue Moon. They're done by Command Decision. They've been around 1,000 years, and they have not added to that range for like 1,000 years. But it does include, like, for every army on the Western Front, you get like some infantry, you get some heavy weapons, you get some like everything you need from one company is available, and they have a track record. But if a new company came out and said they were doing 18 millimeter World War I and they just started, how like safe is it to like buy into that? Because they might not finish it, or it might not sell. You know, like 12 millimeter World War II was kind of a gamble, and I think if it had been metal, it wouldn't have worked. It worked because it was plastic. I guess it's close enough to Pendragon, but yeah, that's one to moan about for different. But like the conclusion was that who doesn't have that problem of knowing whether like buying into a scale or a manufacturer will pay off is all the motherfuckers who play like 15 and 28 millimeter and do nothing else. Like if what you play is like 15 millimeter World War II, heroic scale fantasy, and like 28 millimeter World War II, you are never going to have a problem. You can just roll in and buy from like 17 different companies. You're fine.
It's just like Scald always says, 15 millimeter is king, 6 millimeter is God's own scale, 2 millimeters for those who want realistic ground scale.
Yes. And I've always wanted to do the 6 millimeter skirmish game where you have like one squad of single day 6 millimeter guys, and you make the table exactly to scale. Like if you can throw a grenade 30 meters, you can throw it 30 meters to scale. And because I think it would be really surprising to see what these things really mean. Like, if a guy can run, 10 meters in a couple of seconds, how long is that actually on a table? And you'll realize that like roads on model tables are like ridiculously out of scale. Like a lot of gaming table roads would be like 40 yards wide.
Exactly.
A lot of time houses are out of scale and stuff. So it'd be cool to do as like a real, just to see like, what does this actually look like? It's like when people point out that like like a battalion of men in 50 millimeter scale or whatever, like in Napoleonic warfare. If you think like if you stand next to a friend and you're like elbow to elbow, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you take 500 more of your friends and line them up in that line. Like your unit on the table is not going to be like this thick, short block of things. It is going to be like a string that you drag along,
Yeah.
So
I love playing rank and flank games, but when you think about it, like I got 20 dudes in this block, and that's not very many people whatsoever. This is not a grand battle.
Even if they're supposed to stand in for things, but there's definitely a scale episode we need to do where we just like complain about things.
This complain about scale episode.
I suppose we are winding up at about an hour or so. Yeah.
I want to tell you my dream though. Like when I first got back into wargaming, I was still like, I always kind of kept my finger on the pulse for a while, but once the Robotech Kickstarter started, that's when I really got into it. And I learned that, 6 millimeter was the scale they were using. And there was also Battletech, which I also liked. So I started like diving deep into 6 millimeter. And then I just had this dream of like, that would be the ultimate zombie apocalypse game. Because you could build a city. It just used your little 6 millimeter dudes, so like little vehicles and stuff. And it's like an actual like waves of zombies would be coming through. I mean, I didn't really think about the fact that would take like way too much work, and I never actually.
Yeah, that's
It would be
It's
pretty
more
cool.
fun as a dream, but it is true.
Yeah.
It's kind of the draw of like those little. It's like the 2 and 3 millimeter stuff where you can buy like entire little villages, just pile them up on your table for basically no money, right?
Yeah.
Except now Regular is going out of business, so you can't buy it for shit.
No, that's all Ground Zero games.
So, or maybe they sold some of it. I don't know. They were selling off some of it.
Yeah, that's right. I think the 2 millimeter is sticking around somewhere.
Yeah. Which ironically, like you could just like a lot of those are just like little blobs.
Yeah.
Like it's cool it exists, but like I remember buying like a bag of Napoleonic stuff, and like the skirmishers were literally just like little specks of lead on a base.
Yeah, some people complain that 6 millimeter infantry is just like grains of rice.
Yeah,
but
that I disagree.
They got detail, you know.
Yeah,
they got detail.
That's something people say when they don't actually they haven't actually seen 6 millimeter figures. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Now I have seen those like granny grade armies that people do.
Yeah.
And they actually look good. So it's kind of funny that people took that and like, no, you could totally make it like a real thing. Like when you line up enough of them, they actually look pretty good. But yeah, 6 millimeter is real. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
So, but yes, 15 is king. That's just how it is.
It is, yeah.
I feel like sci-fi gamers are like more attached to 15 millimeter just because for a while that was like something that kind of didn't exist anyway. It's like 15 millimeter sci-fi was such a like crazy scene for like several years where like rules were kind of being adapted to it. Everything was like there was this feeling I think of like everyone like building their own stuff. You grab miniatures from all these different companies and like combine them together, and you found some rules that nobody had planned on using for it, then you just kind of went with it. So I think that's like we've talked. I think we had a 15 millimeter episode a long time ago.
Oh, well, you could never have enough. So
yeah, maybe we need to do a revival. That's the thing when you've been going long enough and you're just running out of ideas, you just go back and take one and like do it again.
Yeah, exactly. Only the people who get hurt in the long run is the people who've been watching like just like a stream of episodes from start to finish.
Yeah. Especially
like
they were just catching up and they just marathon the entire thing and then they're like fuck again.
Yeah. Sometimes I want to talk about how 172 is like the best thing in the world but also the worst thing in the world.
It is simultaneously the best and the worst, like
in
so many
like amazing
ways. Yes, it is amazing and also complete shit.
Yeah. Like it would be absolutely perfect if it wasn't for how shitty it was.
I have gone on and off, and I will continue to go on and off 172s. Like 3 times a year, I look at some stuff and I buy some stuff, and it's such a good time. And there's so much stuff available, and it's so cheap. And then 3 times a year, shifted like 2 months out, I'll be like, "Fuck this shit! Eureka 20s are not that much more expensive, and I don't want to build tanks." But yeah, 172s are definitely contentious, but. It's also one of those things that, like, I think there's a lot of people who, like, sort of, like, that's their thing. They, like, take pride in the fact they just do, like, 172s. And certainly if you're paying, like, $14 per 50 figures, you don't give a shit. Like, like, who cares if some of the rifles are bent? I just bought, like, 3,000 more guys.
Yeah. And the people are half flash.
Yeah.
And you can't get it off because it's rubbery plastic.
Yeah.
So you got to melt it.
Sometimes you can't tell which is flash and which is the actual model. Some of them don't have faces. They all have like the same flat pose.
Yep.
with arms sticking out. They remind me of like old Warhammer guys that always had like the arms sticking up for the characters.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a wizard who's like holding 2 swords over his head or something.
Some of those poses are iconic though. You know, like, they really are the best poses.
You can always
nice flat guys.
Yeah. You know, they're all like standing sideways and aiming. If you're really lucky, you get like one guy who's like crouching.
Ooh, yeah.
that means it's a deluxe set, and that's unironically more than you get in a lot of metal packs anyway.
Yeah, you get hard plastics 172 infantry though. It's just so amazing.
Perfect. There are some that are really good. I was gathering up some Germans, and I found like this hard plastic 172 set. I don't remember the company now, but they were super good, like great poses, great variety, all of it. The only problem was the only German they did was SS. I was like, God damn it. I was like, all right, whatever. Like,
that's my least favorite.
Yeah, you know. We're throwing that out there just in case anyone like clips part of the the show out of context.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. We don't
I
like
love my SS army. I think the SS are very misunderstood. You know,
bring it back
although,
to
to be
TMP.
honest-
Yeah.
right. To be honest, though, I will also admit, like, a lot of times I can't tell the figures apart anyway, so I just mix them in with some like regular like Airfix. German's name is
Well,
fine.
Yeah, you would never know.
Yeah,
Unless you know. Some people really know.
I guess the helmets are different on some of them, but then on some of them they
yeah.
aren't. So I don't fucking know. If I can't tell that they're SS, then they're just like regular Nazis. It's not like the Nazis were any less evil. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, they're fucking Nazis.
Before we sign off, we should tell everyone who's listening on the podcast that the big reveal of Ain't Like You, B4B, the band is Blood for Blood, which is B4B. Ain't Like You, B4B. Check it out.
So, yeah,
Blood for
everyone
Blood.
can roll over to Spotify and have a go.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we will see you again at the end of the month for March, which I will be super tired because it's after the bike show. I've worked all weekend long, and I will be mentally exhausted for sure, and physically.
Yeah, maybe we do need to have the scale talk then, because then we can be
that's
kind
right.
of bitchy and grouchy.
Perfect. All righty.
All right, everybody. Have an excellent night, and peace.
Bye-bye.
This episode of Bad Internet Friends was streamed live on YouTube and Twitch. There is a North American-friendly live stream every second Wednesday of the month and a European-friendly live stream every fourth Monday of the month.